Hi, this video is my review of this instrument. This is a travel tuba, and it's the Schiller brand, which, as I understand it, means it was imported through a company in Wisconsin, Jim Labs Music. But my understanding, as has been explained to me by a number of importers and other musicians, is that this is the exact same make, model, and factory, the same instrument as we might be getting from Mack Brass or Wessex, or I believe M&M Music carries this as well. This is a Schiller, but it comes from, as I understand it, the Jin Bao factory in China. The immediate history of this instrument is, as I understand it again, came from another instrument, another travel tuba that was designed by and for Al Baer of the New York Philharmonic. He was on tour. His concert instruments would go from stage to stage, but he wanted an instrument he could have them on the plane and in the individual rooms for practice away from his concert instruments. And Meinl Weston developed a really fantastic instrument, a travel tuba. It came out about 6 or 7 years ago, and I've gotten to play that at conferences, and it's really just fantastic. And I haven't used it as such, but in my mind, it's the sort of thing that might be a good replacement for a cimbasso in certain circumstances. It's got a very bright tone color. Really remarkable instrument, that Meinl Weston. However, as it is a very high quality instrument made by a terrific company, it's kind of expensive, $6,000 or $7,000. Last I checked. I haven't checked for a while, but I'm sure it's somewhere in that neighborhood. And then a couple of years ago, well, more than a couple of years ago, but pretty recently, some Chinese instrument makers started creating instruments that, if not immediate copies, were sort of influenced by European and American instruments. And they didn't really make an exact or closely adhered copy to the Meinl Weston travel tuba, the way that the 186 Miraphone instrument was pretty closely copied by Jin Bao. But this is their travel instrument, and unlike the Meinl Weston, which is several $1,000s, this I bought for just under $1,000 about 6 months ago, and this review is based on the last 6 months of work I've had with it. So a couple points of comparison. Most obvious one would probably be the comparison to the Meinl Weston travel tuba. I don't have a Meinl Weston travel tuba here to compare it to, but I've played a number of them at conferences and such. And is this exactly like the Meinl Weston? No, it is not. The Meinl Weston really is worth several thousand more dollars than this instrument is, just as far as generally how well it's put together, how good the component parts are, how acceptable the response, back pressure, intonation, evenness of response, and whatnot is the same. So this really is not immediately comparable to the Meinl Weston travel tuba. This is lower quality all around. And it's also not comparable to the smallest concert F-tubas, like the 3/4 F-tubas that Miraphone and Meinl Weston have, or say the Yamaha 621 F-tuba, if I'm remembering my numbers correctly, the smaller of the Bobo tubas. It's really not in that same neck of the woods either. However, I would put forth to you that the fact that this is so affordable does sort of create its own little niche for this. So even though it doesn't play anywhere near as well as the 3/4 concert F-tubas, and it doesn't play nearly as well as the Meinl Weston travel tuba, the fact that this is affordable to some people sort of creates a new genre. And in my opinion, that's what this is. This is a practice accessory. I purchased this a few months ago when I had been on a trip where I wasn't performing on my F-tuba, but I was preparing a concerto on it for a month later. On my return to Flagstaff, my concert tuba, my Firebird, was delayed in shipping by almost 2 full weeks, and that put me less than a month away from my concerto performance, and that terrified me. So I decided from that point on that unless I had to travel with my concert instruments for performance, I was going to avoid that as best I could. So I purchased this for practicing when I'm traveling and when I'm not performing on F-tuba, just when I need to keep it up. And in that sense, it's been extremely valuable. Probably the most significant thing about this instrument that differentiates it from a concert instrument is the bore. You can see for yourself how very small that is. And I've had one of the importers of this instrument into the States compare this to essentially a French horn with a very large mouthpiece receiver. You can see this sort of, it starts making sense dimensionally in my mind until you look at that. And it really does seem extreme. And what that does for you, aside from the fact that it's very easy to transport, is you get a lot of back pressure and you get a lot of response issues. And response between an open note and a note like low B flat, A flat, G, it's pretty extreme because you're adding so much of what adds up to be essentially stuffy cylindrical tubing. Really, the difference in back pressure between F and G, I've worked hard to even that out, but it's kind of comical how different those two notes play, especially since so many 21st century instruments are designed to sort of even that out. Another thing that I thought I was going to get a benefit from this when I purchased this is maybe I was getting the perfect Mendelssohn instrument, or maybe I was getting the perfect Beadlow instrument, something from Midsummer Night's Dream, or that one solo in Pictures at an Exhibition. And I have not been satisfied with the results enough. The tone quality, the intonation, the evenness of response. I'm not sure that I would bring this out, except just showing it off as a novelty. I would still definitely say that this is not a concert instrument. It really is, in my opinion, a practice tool. And if that's how you approach it, you're going to get a lot out of it. But if you try to approach it as a small concert instrument, you're going to be really disappointed. So, as in so many things in music, it's a matter of point of view. One other element, before I get to some specific videos, is my choice of mouthpiece. When I first got this instrument, I tried what I consider conventional mouthpieces, the Parentucci 64, 65, some Laskys, and the like, and I was really having a hard time finding slots. The slots on this instrument are extremely wide, and you can put it pretty much anywhere. It's going to feel like the center, and that was very frustrating to me. It almost felt like I was in essentially an extended buzzing device. But then when I switched over to this mouthpiece, this is the Yamaha Bobo Solo mouthpiece, the replica, and it has, compared to my Parentucci and Lasky mouthpieces, a pretty sharp rim. And that sharpness really immediately gave me a sense of slotting and focus, and I was able to really manipulate the instrument both into the proper notes and into fairly acceptable intonation. And that difference made a really tremendous difference for me, and it has for students and colleagues that I've had try out the instrument as well. So if you've played one of these things with a PT 64 or 65, you might be astonished at how differently it responds to you with a mouthpiece with a sharper rim like the Bobo Solo. Well, I have some other videos for you. I hope you find this interesting. I've had this instrument for about 6 months, and I've learned quite a lot from it. So if you're using this mainly as a practice tool, especially when you're traveling, you're probably going to be in a lot of circumstances where you need to be able to practice, but you also need to be able to not disturb people in the next room or the next floor up or down, and that's going to necessitate a practice mute. Now, I used I think It was a Humenberg bass trombone practice mute, and I just wrapped a little hand towel around the cork, and actually it made it fit in quite well. And that made it pretty soft, about the level of a TV on low. However, sometimes you really need to be able to practice when you absolutely cannot be disturbing anyone at all, not even at really low volumes. And this summer, one of my former teachers suggested to me, this teacher's also using one of these things from time to time, suggested that I use this mute, which is Fax, F-A-X-X, and apparently it's maybe a less expensive copy of another French horn practice mute. That's what this is a French horn practice mute. And it really brings the volume down to next to nothing. In fact, I'm going to leave the microphone on this level that I have set for my voice. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to play a little bit, and then I'll buzz that same melody, and then I'll use the practice mute so you can experience for yourself without any level adjustments just how soft this is. It's incredibly stuffy. So it's sort of like overstuffy mouthpiece buzzing when combined with the other traits of this instrument, but it's incredibly practical at times. And of course I'm faking that low G flat. So it's really stuffy, but it's also extremely quiet. And it also happens to fit just about flush in the bell. I had an Altieri gig bag made for this tuba, and it fits right in there, no problem. I can even put a little t-shirt or something on top to keep it from moving around. And well, it's tremendously convenient. And this combination has helped me keep my chops in shape in circumstances where otherwise I'd just be really wishing I could get a practice session in. Well, hi from the Detroit airport. I took a red-eye in from Phoenix last night. I'm on my way to Indianapolis for some orchestral performances, and I've got a number of things to prepare on my F tuba this week while I'm performing professionally on one of my C tubas, and so I brought travel tuba with me. I've got my metronome set nice and low. I've got a couple hours here between flights, so I'm trying to get in practice session. And this will just demonstrate just how soft this practice mute can be. And no kidding, I haven't adjusted volume. It's softer than my voice, and about 45 minutes ago when I started practicing, I was doing some buzzing exercises, and I found that actually playing this instrument with this particular mute is softer than my mouthpiece buzzing, even when I'm going full bore and really just trying to get a great sound and really get some projection. Interesting stuff.